Good afternoon. What I'm going to talk about today is how IDOT District 7, our traffic studies unit, is using Collector offline with our base maps that we created. We use a little bit different than some people may use Collector. Hopefully, I'll be able to do a live demo here too. I'm going to go through these first slides pretty quick so I can get to the more important stuff. So what do we do in traffic studies? We do traffic forecasting, traffic studies. We do signal warrants and traffic data collection. GIS is a huge part of everything I do. I mean, we're putting data in, taking data out of it, so it's a huge tool that helps us. Traffic data collection is a major part of our workload. In IDOT and District 7, we have one crew that still sets traffic counters. We do about half our accounts throughout the year. The rest is done with traffic count consultants. We collect the data for the Illinois Traffic Monitoring Program, plus we get the data for ourselves for traffic forecasting and signal warrants, and when we have general requests for it. We collect data on marked routes, unmarked routes, and we collect data on all structures and road crossings in our district. So we're on the local system quite a bit. So we can be in the middle of nowhere a lot of the time. So we collect data for 24 hours. This slide here shows our workflow. All the data is stored in Access database. We have locations before the beginning of the year we need to set. We import the data back into that database. I have a Python script I created several years ago. This dynsegs the data, which basically extracts the data out of the database and makes GIS layers out of it. When new traffic count data is put in the database, I use those layers to bring in ArcMap. That way I can review the data, which it's a lot easier to view it graphically than it is looking at a form in Access, so that helps out a lot. Also, starting this year, I took those layers, I made base maps out of them. Those base maps we bring into Collector. The field crews enters data into Collector. I have a web app I created that exports out the road tube data. And in Access, I have several forms. One of the forms will import that data directly in, so there's no hand entering anything. Right here, this slide shows what I provide the field crew. So what do they need when they go out? You can see the X's there. They're kind of show up brown on there. The X's are the GPS location where the counter was set last time. This is where they need to go to set the counter for this time. So they got the place where they need to go. They need to go to the X, or the approximate location of the X. I got three different colors shown. There's blue, green, and red/orange, I guess you could say. Each one of those three colors represents what type of traffic counter needs set. And there's four shades. It's kind of hard to see on here, but there's four shades of each color. Those kind of represent the break for the station, like between streets and stuff. Sometimes they need that out in the field. Sometimes you get where the two colors go back to back, but kind of hard to tell. And you can also see the labeling on here. I labeled two different fields. The first three digits is county code. So every station that we set in that county is labeled with the same number, the first three digits. And then the four digits after that's the unique station field. I will get more into that later. So over time, I've been in here a lot of years. When I first got in here, everything was done on paper. They took 3x3 maps out, and that's how they navigated, and everything was done on paper. For about 11 years, we used ArcMap. We've got traffic count software where, like magnetic lane counters, we have to program and download through software anyway, so we had the laptop out in the field anyway, so we started using Collector. The data was stored on the C drive. I created a batch file where all the field crew had to do was log on to the network, and they clicked the batch file, and it copy from the C drive to the network. It was done about once a week. The data was entered in the attribute table. ArcMap worked good. It wasn't very user-friendly for the people in the field, and so we started researching Collector, and this was the first year we used Collector. It worked really good. I was just worried about being offline because a lot of our stuff is local, and this was a year where everything was almost local, so it was a good test year for us. The only thing we had to use was a laptop. When we first started out, we got an iPad in October. We're using it now some, but we have a Bluetooth GPS receiver that we use with Collector, and MiFi was already set up in the truck, so we had an internet connection. We use Collector offline. The first 3 weeks or so, we used it online until we get everything set up offline. Once we get everything set up, got our base map set up, we've used Collector offline ever since. It doesn't matter if we're in the middle of an urban area or not. We still use it offline. The guy in the field really liked it. So we collected about 1,600 locations so far this year. Probably 1,500 or more were done offline. So why do we go offline? You can see the picture on the right there. It's taken not too long ago. We're collecting structures on the local system, so we're on narrow oil and ship roads. You don't know if there's going to be service there or not. If it is, it may be 3G. It takes you 2 minutes to load the map. So that's one of the main reasons we definitely need it offline. We created our own base maps because the current version of Collector that we're using it in Windows right now, but like the current version didn't support labeling or arcade expressions. I'll tell a little bit more about that labeling and stuff later, but like if I kind of wanted to set up like a couple slides ago where the crew just looks at the station number instead of have to go in and actually do something to get the station number. I'm not going to touch on the other stuff too much, but not all the roads shown on the existing Collector maps are public roads. You'll get a lot of field roads and stuff like that when you get out in the rural areas. I'm not going to touch on this a whole lot either, but base maps, I started using Pro to do my base map. It worked really, really easy. It created a vector tile package. Then I couldn't get it to work in Collector, and I found out that Collector doesn't support vector tiles yet either. So I went back to ArcMap. And to create your base map in ArcMap, I set everything up, got my layers in, label it just like I wanted, and then you have to enable your runtime tools. That's in your ArcMap options, and then you can do file, share as, a tile package. And it's kind of the screen shot on the right. I filled out some of my item description, my summary, my tags, and then I analyzed it. I got highlighted no errors. The reason I'm telling you all this is I got no errors, but I got warnings on everything. I kind of ignored them because I use UNC paths plus a couple of my layers. You can kind of see I kept them visible to all scale ranges, so that's why I got a couple of the errors. And then I just went ahead and shared it. I'm using some of my maps I use the road network, the IDOT road network that we have. I'm using every road in that county, and I'm labeling every road by the road name. I'm bringing in 800 to 1,200 points where we need to set for that county. Plus, I'm bringing in 8 to 1,200 stations. I'm color coding them and labeling. Sometimes it took on like a laptop. It'd take me less than 5 minutes to make the map. It'd take me over 8 hours to process it. So I just let it run in the background. Recently, I just did a map, and it's just a partial county, and it didn't take a couple hours. But that's one thing to keep in mind, that when you create a base map or a tile package, processing time can be quite a bit if you have a slower computer. File sizes range from 200 meg. I think our largest one's like 420 meg for one of the tile packages. So how do you get these into Collector? If you're using Apple, you have to share it through, you have to use iTunes and share it, do a file share to Collector. Windows device like this laptop is saved locally. All I have to do is go in Collector, and I can add it in, which I'll show you that here shortly. These slides here, I'll come back, but this is my backup plan in case this doesn't work. But I got Collector open here. For those of you who haven't seen Collector, this is what it kind of looks like. I got my maps here. You can tell what map can be downloaded and used offline. It's got a down arrow. Keep in mind this is a Windows device. There's some differences between Windows and Apple. Just because this is an offline map, I can still go in and it will be online. And because my feature in here, it'll still collect it, and I can still select my base maps. Let's see how long this takes here. Hopefully this doesn't take very long. Hopefully this works. Okay. So it kind of shows us where we're at and everything, but you can always go in. A little slow here. base maps on device. I've got a couple loaded on here, so I can always go back in. I can use this online or offline, and I can use my own base maps online as well. But we just recently, I mean, we prefer using stuff offline because we never know where we go. You may be a half mile from an urban area and drop down the river bottom and not have any signal or service at all. So to use offline, I click on the down arrow. It wants me to select my base map. I'm going to select the town one now that I call town. Basically, it's our IDOT road network. I'll show you the other one. I'll add the other one in later. You select your work area and download it. Shouldn't take just a few seconds to download. While this is doing that, we've used Collector for a couple years to update our guardrail. A lot of times you're collecting like a physical feature, you're getting out and you're seeing the guardrail end, or you're seeing the sign or ADA ramp or something. We're using Collector a little bit different because we're wanting Collector to show us, hey, this is where we need to be. When we get there, here's the equipment you need to use. And when you collect a point, here's your ID number. So that's kind of how we're using Collector. Plus, since we set counters, we set them, 24 hours later, we got to go back and pick them up. So we visit each location twice. And I will show you that here shortly too. I don't have the GPS receiver hooked up because we're in a building. I don't think we get any satellites, but if you're normally using this out in the field, you're gonna have the blue dot and it's gonna follow you around and it'll know your location. This is one of our smaller counties we did this year, 800 counts or so. You can kind of see it's, when you get towards the end, it's kind of a mess to know where you're at. This project here, it's set up to, I'm in the office all the time. I'm not out a whole lot. But if I find errors or something, I text the guy in the field and he can type in, I'm gonna just make up a number here. He can type it in the search. It takes him right where it's at. He can click on it. I can tell him, hey, something's wrong with this one. He can go through, double check it, make the change, sync it back up, and I have the change in the office. It's like really efficient compared to the way we had it before. I'm going to zoom in. I got some time here. I'm going to go ahead and collect the point. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, normally this would like follow us. I'm going to collect a point. You notice when I first collect a point, it's coming in as a red triangle. The guy in the field requested this, and it's a really good idea that we had it set up because he's the one out there. Say this location is a narrow road, deep ditches. There's nowhere really to pull over here at all. He doesn't want to be there very much time at all, so wrong county. He'll go in, and he'll enter the first couple of fields here. We're going to enter our station number, and he's going to submit it, and we're going to move on. He's going to get out, set the counter, get back in the truck, take off. We're going to come down. We'll do another one over here somewhere. When he gets to this location, he's got a good place to pull over. He can come back in here, and we can go ahead and enter the county and the station number. This is the one good thing about using our own base maps. We have the station number labeled here because it's not only used here. We got a couple different types of counters where that station number is used to program the counter. So we need it in multiple places. When I first started this, I hosted layers. I hosted the features out there, and I was thinking, okay, well, that's the way we're going to do it. You host the features, and then he would have to click on the line and get a station number. Well, this is so much more efficient if it's right there where they can see it, they can double check it, because they're going to enter it here. They may be switching programs here and programming the counter, and they're going to have to use the same number again. So it kind of cuts down on the errors if it's right there. I'm going to go ahead and we'll pretend there's a city. We're at the edge of the city anyway, so. And basically just go through and enter all the attributes on the first round here. And I mentioned before about arcade expressions. I had this set up in a web map until I realized that collector doesn't support arcade expressions yet. I'm hoping the next version, according to the blogs, the next version is going to support labeling and arcade expressions and vectors. So, but what we're wanting here is, okay, say I've got the same symbol and I've got 800 other symbols in there. How am I going to find? We set at least 24 hours apart. So we may set Monday morning. It may be Thursday morning or afternoon before they get back to pick that location up. So how are you going to find where you were at? So that's where I can use a complicated arcade expression where the first two fields we filled out, county and station, it would be red, and then we fill some more stuff out. It would turn a different color, and then when you finalize it, it would turn the final color, which is the purple there. So we can't do that yet. So what we're doing now, all of our counts are 24 hours now. A few years ago, we had a few 48-hour counts that we had to do. We don't do those anymore. They're all 24, but I went ahead and kept it in the domain, and I'm glad I did now, because what we do is the first day when we set the counter, we change it to 48, it turns it yellow, and we'll submit it. And then we can kind of zoom out a little bit. Okay, we've done that one. We didn't finish entering the data on this one. He may have jotted down like some information about it, so we can go back into this one and edit it. We're going to finish filling this one out real quick here. Okay, say we're done for the day here. We got our locations. So all we have to do is go back to our maps, and collector tells you, hey, you've got 2 points you've edited or created. We're offline, it's saved locally here, so we want to sync it to the server. All we do is hit the sync button. It'll sync it up. As soon as this gets done syncing, I've got it in the office. Okay, finished there. What you can do is, like you see from the map, we may be in a city for a month or more. So he may leave this map on the device. The next morning he gets in, all he does is click on it. It's already downloaded on the device. He goes in, does what he needs to, syncs it. We sync a few times a day just to be on the safe side. It depends how many he collects. You always have to make sure you've got a good service when you're there, when you're syncing anyway. But if you want to remove the map, all you have to do is hit the remove. And if you remove the base map only, or the features and the base map, it takes the base map out of collector. It's still stored on the device, but if I wanted to use that base map again, I got to go in and add it again. So I'm just going to remove the features. And it shouldn't take very long. It takes a few seconds to release it and bring it back. The one other thing about collector, I could try to get in there and add another base map, and I would sit here for a little bit, and it would tell me unsuccessful download because it keeps it locked. I don't know why. There you can tell them back down because there's an arrow there again. You have to actually close out a collector and load collector again before you can add another base map, or download the project again, I guess I should say. Getting collector here. There we go. Get back into my maps. I'll show you now. You can go to on device and go to base maps. I've got a couple loaded. All you have to hit is your plus for your base maps, and it should bring up, here's all the ones I've done this year, or most of them. I got maybe a few more back at the office. I'll show you another type of map I use. We use this kind of map out in the county. This is the general highway map. It's like you could download off the IDOT website. It's got a lot more. It's got your streams and your airports, and it's got a lot of different stuff in it. It's a pretty good map for the county. I'm going to go back. Maps here. Okay, I'm going to download this map again, and this time I'm going to select that county map. We're going to pretend it's the next day or a couple days later. We'll come back to pick those counters up. This may take just a little bit longer. These maps are a little bit larger. Select the county one. This is how we're using it this year. Next year's a marked route year. We're going to be doing, kick me out of here. Next year's a marked route year. I'm going to be adding more stuff to these base maps. We're going to be doing more labeling because marked route data is collected directionally. And okay, what happened here? There we go. Marked route data is collected directionally, so we need to know what inventory direction there is for the route we're on, so I'll be labeling that. Plus, we set a lot of camera video counters on marked route year, so we will be doing a lot of that, and that's another feature that I'm going to be having in here of all the locations where video needs collected. Okay, I'm going to select. We've used, like I said, we've used Collector Offline all year, and we've not had any issues at all with it. Usually, if we use an ArcMap, laptop's bouncing around the truck, country roads quite a bit. ArcMap, I'll get calls every once in a while, something happened, it closed, and the problem is if the hard drive goes out on the laptop, it's a lot of work for me to get another laptop that's got, I got to have GIS loaded on it again, and I got to get all the projects, everything set up. This way, everything's kind of online. I can get Collector on quite a bit of stuff now because we're starting to go to Windows 10. Okay, hopefully this doesn't take too long. Okay, so we're back the next day. We can clearly see, okay, what locations have we not finalized in this county? You can kind of get a look at the county map too. This is it's the general highway map. I got a lot of different stuff. You got like all these small, not really cities or villages, or the small communities are on there. Airports, like I said before. So we're back at the location. It follows back here. We know what we got to pick up. He'll pick up the counter, and we'll go in, edit. The type of counter I'm showing you now, some counters, the magnetic lane counters, I don't really need to do anything but finalize it because all the data is downloaded to a separate software. But a lot of the counts that we did this year on the unmarked system, he's basically looking at the number on the counter and typing it in here. So that's what I'm going to do here, get the total count. And to finalize it, we're going to 24 hours. Turns it purple. We're done with it. We're going to submit it. We're going to drive to the next one real quick. We're going to do the same thing. So basically, the duration of count is our switch. If we do nothing to it, it shows up red. When we change it, it changes our symbology. Let's see, I'll type in a number here. We're going to submit it. Okay, we're done for the day. One thing you can do, you can zoom out, say, okay, I didn't leave any. Some of these counters are really expensive. I didn't leave anything out on the road. I finalized everything. We're good to go. So I'm going to go back and go in our maps. Okay, I've edited two things. I got two things that needs updated. So all I have to do is sync it. It's going to be live online. And then I'm going to remove the base map and everything on this one just to kind of show you. It's real fast on removing the base map. There's my map that's online. It's getting ready to go back online. It's already taken my base map out. I can always go back in and do the add base map and bring it back on. But I'll go back in here. That's all I got to show you for a collector. So you may be wondering, okay, you did this data. What do you do with it? How do you get into access? So I'm a huge fan of web apps, using the web app builder. Super simple. I kind of dummy proof my stuff where I don't have to worry about clicking on something and removing it. I mean, I got all the widgets in there that I need. Here, that's the wrong one. I've got two of them I'm going to show you. I got time. I'm going to go ahead and show you some stuff on this. Here is the web app I created for this traffic data collection. This saves tons of time. Before, when we did ArcMap, I'd have to get in, I'd have to check the data, export it out as a DBF, and then I could import it into Access. This web app makes stuff a lot easier. I'm gonna load here. I'm getting ahead of it here. Okay. We'll just zoom into kind of the county where we were at before. We're on Wi-Fi here. It's just a little bit slower than. Show me that. I'm gonna try this again. Sorry for this. So I have the backup plan with the slides. Something always goes wrong when you try to do a live demo. So basically with this web app, it's similar to what they have out in the field. I can actually go in and I can set my 28 set locations and say the guy in the field texts me, calls me and say, hey, I got an issue with this location here. I can go in and like do a quick search on it as well. So I got search capabilities in here by the station number. The one issue is station numbers start over in sequence for every county. So I start with 0001 in every county. So if I type in 0010, I may have 4 different ones, and you click on one, it'll take you to each county. So you have to, that's the only issue with a search. You can kind of see all the data that we got. Shows up here. One of the really good things I like about this is I got preset filters in here. All these filters are looking at that set location layer feature that we have. A lot of them are preset. I just check them on or off and see if there's any data here. But if I want to filter by equipment type or date, if something comes up, I can always go in and do quick filters on it. I think we're still loading here. I'll bring up my table view too. But a lot of these filters on the left here, I can go in and like there's one for, I'm gonna turn this one on. Check for, oh, wrong one. It's still trying to load here, I think. Check for equipment type other. We have several different equipment types. If we do other, it means there's an issue with something. So what we did this year, if we have an other equipment type, it means the counter cannot be set for some reason. And now that we have an iPad and hopefully be getting a Surface Pro or something, we can actually take pictures of this, because we had some issues this year where there's no longer roads or streets, there's bridge closed. You find a lot of different stuff out in the field, like, and me being in the office, okay, is it closed temporarily, permanently? I mean, some of that stuff I need to know. Do I put it on the reset list to check it later in the year, or what should I do with it? So this will help out a lot when we get attached pictures to it as well. Oh, this is like really slow loading. Maybe I better get out a collector. I don't know if that'll help or not, but a lot of these other filters, I'm not going to go through all these. I was going to actually do one where I left something out and then have to go back in and edit it, but I can also edit in here. This is a really quick check. I can go through and check all these on. If I have issues, we've collected 1,586 locations already this year, but if I have issues with like something missing, it'll show up in this table if I check on something. So missing equipment type, okay, I have nothing. Okay, I'm good with that one. I'll move on to the next one. So that's what a lot of this filtering does. Also, NC locations, that's our magnetic lane counters. I have a program I create in our district that goes into that software, pulls out all the counters. I can import that into Access. But I also have a check in here because we still document every location we set. So I can go in here and say, okay, from this date to this date, did we set any NC counters? And it'll tell me how many. That way I know when I do my other program, okay, I'm not missing something that maybe there was an issue where I didn't get the data. So it's a good check there. There's another type of road tube counter that we use. It doesn't actually give you the number. When you pick the counter up, you have to bring it in the office and go through some software, and the final product is a PDF that has your truck data. A lot of times what I'll check this on and find those locations, and there's some fields in here. I'll do total count, PV, SUMU, unclassified. I'll go ahead and enter those in here real quick. Eventually we'll probably be doing that out in the field as well. The big time savings with this thing is I can go in now. This is my export. I can go in and say, okay, I want everything I set today in Richland County. I can go in and select this, turn it on. Okay, we have 2 things we collected today in Richland County. So all I have to do is export to a CSV file, open it up. I save the CSV to an Excel file. I name it the same name every time. I got a form set up in Access, 10 buttons or so. I just go through, click on it, it brings it in. I don't have to touch any of the numbers, which I know doesn't sound like much, but like I can do as many as I need to, but I mean, I could do all 1,500, 1,600 of these this year in less than 5 minutes. Well, if you go back, here's what the form looks like in Access. Years ago, we used to have to do this. You have to search, you'd query out the county, you have to search for the station. Everything is yellow is what would get hand entered. So if you had to hand enter like 1,000 of these things, it would take you several hours. I can do all this in like less than 5 minutes now. And it's even faster now that I got this web app that it queries everything easily for me. That's all I have for traffic data collection. One other thing I'm going to show you real quick. I did this about 2 years ago. When I first got in this job, part of my job is knowing history on locations and having the history. So when we do a traffic forecast, it's nice to know what other forecast has been done in that area. And a lot of times we'll get a forecast from like hydraulic department, and then 6 months later I get the same exact thing from design. So years ago I started putting everything in Access and then putting coordinates with it. And I had a Python script set up that would dissect the data, and like the one for the traffic data, it's a scheduled task on my desktop. I never have to really touch it. Every time I log in, it automatically did it and put it out there. Well, a couple of years ago, I got it put in here. It's been about 2 years now. It's put in here, and ArcGIS Online made a web app out of it. If I zoom in, because we do traffic forecasting on the local system as well, you can kind of see all the data that's in here. I got quite a bit of stuff turned on right now. I'm going to go in and turn some of this off. I'm going to go quickly through this. I'm going to turn some of these off. I got structures as well on here. So somebody sends me a request for a structure number. I'm going to type one in here. I can search on it, and hopefully really quick here it will zoom to it. So basically the point of this app is it helps me, anytime I do anything, like a forecast or a study, I go ahead and I enter the data in here. It showed me that's where this structure's at. I'm going to go ahead and turn my structure layer off. And what I can do is I'll say, okay, I've done one here before, so all I have to do is click on it. I get all my data. And in 2018, I'm doing this in baby steps. It takes time to get this, and I keep building on stuff as years go by, but I started attaching my files now, so not only can I say, okay, I did one there, it was done in October, but now I can actually pull up the data. If somebody's like standing over me and I say, okay, here's the forecast, I'll just email it to you or send it to you. And eventually this web app here will be, we've got view-only layers now. I just haven't had time to set everything up, but it'll be available to other people in our office. So if they want to know this stuff, especially for signal warrants, they can come in and get it on their own. I'll do that one real quick too. So if we get a request, somebody wants signal warrants somewhere, first thing safety committee wants to know is, have we ever done them there before? If so, how many times, and do they meet signal warrants? I got the select widget here. All I have to do is go in and select them, select what intersection. I can go in and pull it up in here, and I can sort on warrant date and say, okay, I can go through and I can look at all the dates we did them. Say, okay, I just did one in March, and then I can actually go in and, I don't really see it on here, but I can click on it, or I can open the attachment. So I got attachments to that as well. So that way, other people in the office will be able to just get in there and go through it and see if it met warrants or not. clear that. One thing I didn't go over with this web app is more filtering. I got several filters. Say somebody comes in and wants to know different stuff about warrants or any of the traffic studies. Something else I didn't mention, like traffic forecasting, I got lines and points both. So it's not, if I got a 10-mile section, I don't just have a dot there. I've actually got the line in there to show the beginning and end. And I can click on it and see there may have been multiple ones done there. But so I can query or filter this stuff out, or I only see certain stuff as well. That's about all I have for that. I'm going to go back to the presentation here, if it'll let me. We're going to have to go down some. So basically, with my presentation is we're using offline because kind of what Bill said before too, like you never know what service you got. A 2D map looks fine, but looks like you got service, but you may be really close to an urban area and you may be down 50 to 100 foot. And am I in the wrong? Am I going back? Okay, it's like really slow. I'm pushing the button and like it's really far behind here. Yeah, this may be easier just to do this. I only got a few minutes left. My last slide was questions. So all the other slides were my backup. There we go. Get my slide here. Does anybody have any questions? I'll try to do my best to answer them. There's a lot of other people that was involved in this. We had the GIS team help quite a bit with getting everything set up offline as well. Yes?
It looked like with the video intersection counts, you go back and put that attachment in there so people can look. Do you do that the same for the traffic counts? Go back if you ever have a third-party software analyze data, you always go back and put the data after the fact back in the...
No, I don't. All our data is the location. It's got a lot of the information. The only types of counters that have the actual counts in there are the road tube stuff, the ones that you actually see on the screen, and the ones that it's kind of a old software, I think. But like you go in there and you have to process it. It takes just a couple minutes, but the one that I can get out of is a PDF. So it's easier just to hand enter just a few numbers here than actually have to hand enter the count. All my other stuff like has a separate software. It's saved in an MDB file. I've got something set up where a few clicks automatically grabs the data. It's just too time consuming to go in here and edit it. So it's all imported into my Access database. So everything gets put into Access. The only thing that's stored into this feature is the road tube data that has the actual count. I have the locations of everything that we set, but the only actual count data, like the number, is from the road tube data.
When you take your data from your CSV to your Excel, do you verify that? If so, how?
The only thing I'm adding more filters in because I've got several filters set up now that catches a lot of the errors, so I can catch them, text the guy, he'll fix it. I do extend the columns a little bit and look at the data. Actually, just yesterday, I caught one where he was entering in something and had a parentheses in front of it or something. So I visually look at it. I don't spend hardly any time because my form and Access, if there's an error there, then I go back to that Excel file. But if something doesn't go into Access right, then I go back there. But I open that Excel file up. I visually just scan it real quick. If I see anything that stands out just because it's not lined up with the other ones, I'll go in and fix it then. But a lot of times I let Access catch some of that stuff. But my main filtering, my main air checking is those filters at the beginning. That catches the majority of my stuff. I had very few errors this year at all. When you're entering stuff in the attribute table, I had several errors. Not I mean, I may have had like a dozen a year, but I mean, it's difficult to enter in the attribute table. So hope that answers your question a little bit.
More.
Yeah.
Do you share your collector app with other districts in the state? The front end looks like it could be used universally or as a standard interface.
We haven't yet, no. It's just
Okay.
basically the collector app. We're the first district to do that this year. Once we got started doing this, we have traffic count consultants in IDOT. After I got started doing this, I heard a consultant in Chicago was going to start trying this year, and then the consultant that sits in our district was actually calling me for questions too on how to do this. So we haven't got anything set up for anybody else yet this year, and not every district has somebody that sets counters. We're going more towards consultants, but there's a few that still have people that go out. So we haven't, to answer your question, we haven't got this set up for everybody yet. So we're in the process, I think. So.
On your ArcGIS Online, the links to your attachments, where are you storing those documents? Are you on one of your servers, or are you storing them on somewhere on ArcGIS?
They go to the central server. We're just adding an attachment is all we're doing. So we're not doing links. We're just adding, just like you would a picture, we're just adding it, and it's going to ArcGIS Online server, I think. Dan may or... Oh, the PDFs, they're actually locally on our server. I'm just going in and I have an attachment field. I just go in and grab the file. So it's not actually going back to our district server. It's actually going to where all this other data is stored. I believe that's correct. So we're not actually saving the links. They're not actually going to our server. They're actually attaching like you would a picture if you was out in the field. So I don't know if we'll have any issues down the road with the amount that we're adding, but a lot of the PDFs I'm using aren't really that huge anyway. So any other questions at all?
How did you publish that county map?
The webinar.
Hang on. Anyway.
Yeah, the question is, how'd you go about publishing the county map?
What I did was, that county map's available if you're at IDOT. There's BIP, or not BIP, it's the mapping graphing. They make the maps. They're out there on our server at IDOT. I pulled them off. I brought them
They're
in.
PDFs, correct?
No, they're TIFF files, I believe.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're TIFF files, but I've got it set up. We're using a project where when we mask a county, it automatically brings in the county map background. So these files are available to everybody at IDOT. They're on the IDOT server, but I brought that map in behind everything in ArcMap, and then all I have to do is make a base map out of it. So that's how it was brought in. So I don't know if that doesn't really
Yeah, that answers.
kind of dances around your
Yeah,
question
thanks.
a
Yeah,
little
I
bit,
think
but
that has a lot of value. Yeah, I'd definitely like to get
so I didn't go out and
district
like,
in it.
I didn't, what's that?
I say, I'm with District 6. I'd definitely like to get our counties published like that as well.
Yeah, so I didn't actually go out and grab off the website and try to spatially bring it in and everything. And it was already available. I use them all the time anyway. I have for years because it's a good, you can turn everything else off and just use that base map, and it's got everything you need on it. It's got coordinates and road names and everything. So it's a good map. So we like using it. So.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. Thanks a lot.